What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Big Men on Campus College Football Conference Tournament preview. We are getting closer and closer, folks, to the 2019-2020 college football season. Looking forward to getting into that. I mean, we're in the depths of summer right now, and I'm excited to get into football again. And there's nothing better than previews, isn't there? Getting ready for the season, getting prepared for the season. And over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to take you through another college football conference. I'm going to take a look today at the Big 12, a Big 12 that I think is going to be really fun this year. As always, looking forward to chatting about that. And getting you ready for the season. Basically, I'll quickly go over each team, give you my picks to win it, maybe a sleeper, and some betting nuggets along the way. Obviously, Oklahoma gets the job done last year. They win the Big 12 behind Kyler Murray and everything that they were able to do, beating Texas and Sam Ehlinger. If you listen to Ehlinger's quotes after the game, he maintained that the goal this year was obviously to win it and be a Tim Tebow-like player. So obviously we'll start out with the Oklahoma Sooners. And look, if you followed me in some of my media things that I do, some radio stuff, even on my own Twitter account, I've talked candidly about the Oklahoma Sooners. I think they are a team that I would be very interested in the Final Four, winning the entire thing. I think they're as good as it gets. I think they're a shoe-in probably to get to the Final Four. I think they're the best team in this conference. And, you look at what Lincoln Riley's been doing there, just continues to churn out a winner. You look at, obviously, this year coming in, you got to be excited again. Jalen Hurts, who, look, at Alabama was a great player. I mean, I don't think it's anything that Jalen Hurts didn't do. He didn't have a great half against Clemson in the national title game. That then spurned Tua Tagovailoa, and the rest is history. But Jalen Hurts has his football team now. He doesn't have to worry about another guy coming in and stealing his spot. It's his football team. You have to wonder. I mean, for as good as Jalen Hurts was in the SEC against SEC defenses, what is he going to do against the Big 12 defenses? I'm excited for him. I think he's going to have a terrific year. He has a ton of weapons over at Oklahoma. You look at in the backfield, Sherman and Brooks. CeeDee Lamb's as good as it gets. Grant Calcaterra is a great tight end. This is an exciting football team. And I think a lot of people point to it and say, well, big man, defensively, they stink. Yeah, they did. They were very bad last year, but they went out. They got a new defensive coordinator. And there's a little chip on this group's shoulder. This team was 130th last year in passing defense. It has to get better. This team gave up almost 34 points a game. Just wasn't good enough. And I think it really is the downfall. It's what doesn't allow them to compete with your Clemsons and with your Alabamas. They can get there, but it's always been connecting and getting over the hump that's been the problem for Oklahoma. I think the value is there. I think they'll win this conference. I think if you have to look at one thing that you're a bit concerned about, it would probably be the offensive line. Keep in mind that they have probably the best center in the country in Creed Humphrey. They did lose a few guys last year, but this is a group that, you have to figure they're going to bring in the right guys. They have guys that have come in and can play. I think they'll get it figured out and be totally fine. But, yeah, look, if you're telling me to pick a favorite right now, to me, it's Oklahoma. And to me, Oklahoma is a team that at 15-ish to 1, I'm very interested in to win the entire thing. Let's kind of quickly go through every team here. Baylor, interesting team, Baylor. I was very high on them last year. I thought they'd have a huge turnaround, and they did. They went from 1-11 to 7-6. They continue to elevate under Matt Rule, and it really shows you how good of a coach Matt Rule is. I think Charlie Brewer is really good. I think the skill positions, they could have one of the better teams. I mean, Mims, Platt, JaMycal Hasty, Treston Ebner. I mean, this is a good football team offensively. I think they're going to score plenty of points this year. Really, for them, the big thing is, look, are they a Big 12 contender? No. But I think this team could win 7 or 8 games. I really do. I think they continue to elevate. They have a pretty decent, easy non-conference schedule. I think they're going to put the fear in a couple of these bigger teams. Yeah, they're a team that I think obviously you always wonder what they can do up front. They're not great from a depth perspective defensively, but they have a pretty good linebacker crew that I think they're excited about. Pretty good special teams. Can their secondary be good enough? That's been kind of the issue in certain years. We knew under Art Briles it was a major problem, but Brewer continues to take steps forward. He threw for over 3,000 yards last year. This is a good football team. They won some games. They went back to a bowl game, and they made a big step forward. I mean, you got to respect what Matt Rhule has been able to do with the amount of talent that he has there. This is a team that really was in the depths of really nowhere when Art Briles left. All of a sudden, Baylor's competing. I think they're a bowl team. I really like them. Iowa State, a lot of people like this group. Their win total is 8. Seems a bit high for me. They have a new coach, or not a new coach. They have a new quarterback. Obviously, they brought in last year Brock Purdy, who's very good, but this team lost a lot of talent last year. Who would have thought Iowa State would send 2 players to the NFL? They did so. Hakeem Butler and David Montgomery, 2 guys that were pillars of that football team in Ames for a long time. I have to wonder. Look, obviously that's going to be no picnic replacing those guys. They were as good as it gets. Defensively, though, Iowa State just has found an identity. They've been very good against the run. They've been very good, really, in really every facet defensively. And you got to be excited what they can do. They're one of the teams in this conference that has found a way to play defense. But here's the thing. I think for them to hit that win total, they're going to have to beat Iowa. That's a tough football game. That could really be the difference. But to think that they're going to get and have the same success as they did last year, I think 8 as far as a win total is a bit high for this team. I don't know that I necessarily see that. 6 or 7 wins, yeah, but I mean 8. Seems a bit high for me. I mean, you look at their schedule. I mean, there's some gimme games. They'll beat Northern Iowa. They'll beat Louisiana Monroe. They'll beat Kansas. They'll probably beat West Virginia. Probably beat Texas Tech. But I think at Baylor's a toss-up. I think TCU's probably your dark horse this year. And obviously Oklahoma's tough. OK State is very good. Texas is as good as it gets. I think 8's a bit high for this group, especially with what they lost last year. But again, you look at this offensive line, got plenty of seniors. You got to just hope that the talent could come in. And under Matt Campbell, it's always kind of been able to develop. So I'm kind of a bit lower on Iowa State than I think a lot of people are. I just think it's going to be really difficult to kind of figure out what you have after losing Butler and losing Montgomery. Kansas is next. Obviously, in Lawrence, it has been a long time since they have been excited about their football team, but hiring Les Miles obviously is exciting. Keep in mind, this is probably the biggest rebuild in Power 5 football. This is a terrible football team. They won 6 games over the last 4 seasons, and they won 2 games over the last 36 in the Big 12. This is a bad, bad, bad football team. However, you look at this team. I mean, do you go into the season? I mean, a lot of the time under David Beatty and others, you go into the season and think, well, I mean, is there 1 or 2 wins on this schedule? Not usually. But this year, you look at the first 2 games. I mean, there's no reason Kansas shouldn't start 2-0. I mean, look, Kansas is bad, but I mean, they have a new quarterback, Thomas McVitie. If you know anything about Thomas McVitie, he was a terrific JUCO player down at Mesa Community College. Did some really good things there. I think he brings a lot of life into this Kansas team. Puka Williams is a good running back. They have some talent here. All of a sudden, they're not that. They're going to be probably the worst team in this conference, but I don't think they're the same kind of whipping boy that we normally think they are. They weren't horrible last year defensively, but it's got to get better. I think, though, with the slate here, I mean, you should start 2-0. West Virginia is not as good as normal. Texas Tech's a toss-up. Their win total is 3. If I'm getting 2.5, I would be very high on that. But the fact that we're getting 3, I'm not as interested. Kansas will be a thorn in team sides, as TCU last year. But there really aren't, outside of Indiana State and Coastal Carolina, there really aren't many gimme games here. There just aren't. And this, as I said, is a much better conference top to bottom. Keep in mind also that they haven't won 4 games in a season since 2009. So I feel like when you take under 3, I would much rather take the under 3 as opposed to the over 3. I don't know that I see. I think 2 wins is surely possible, but I just can't really see 4. I just don't. I think in most cases you'll get your money back because I think they can probably beat a Texas Tech or like a West Virginia. But again, I mean, do you really want to trust Kansas in winning 4 games? And they haven't done so in almost 10 years. So the fact that their win total is 4, I think 3 is safe. I would be blown away if they win 4 games. And look, if you know anything about me, I have hit Kansas on the head a lot. I've called their win totals. I haven't been I think 1 year, 2 or 3 years ago, I laid 1.5, and I don't think they won a game. So I think it was the year they lost to South Dakota State. I think it was 2 years ago. Kansas State, obviously new coach, Chris Klieman. Here's what I'm going to say about K-State. I don't think they're going to win a ton this year. I think they're a 5-6 win team, and then getting to a bowl game would be a huge win for Chris Klieman. But I'm going to tell you right now, get familiar with this football team. I think in a year or 2, they're going to be really good. I think next year it could be their year. I think Skylar Thompson continues to develop as a quarterback. They're very high on him in K-State, in Manhattan. Obviously, you're moving on from a legend. Well, maybe not. I don't consider Bill Snyder a legend. A lot of people do. The truth of the matter, though, is Bill Snyder was a terrible bowl coach. But look, if you're looking at Bill Snyder from a coaching perspective and what he's done for kids, okay, fair enough. But you look at this team, Chris Klieman. We can't not talk about his unbelievable success at North Dakota State. I mean, he really was just legendary, and he was kind of a legend in the same facet as any Big Ten coach in Division I. He won, and the fact that you're bringing him to Manhattan is huge. From what I understand, the whole program has embraced his energy and kind of mantras. Again, it's going to take some time. This was not a good offense last year. They were dead last in scoring offense and total offense. They're going to have some growing pains. But you look at kind of going forward, I think they can kind of take some strides. They bring in a guy named James Gilbert at running back. He was at Ball State. I think he needed to go somewhere to at least win some games. Look, they're not going to win, like I said, but defensively they're always okay. I think Klieman will get his guys in there. I think the recruiting class you have to be kind of excited about. I think down the road they're going to do some great things at K-State. Remember the Colin Klein years many years ago? They needed some depth at running back. They got it. This was a team last year that just really didn't do anything great offensively. I think Thompson continues to develop. If they could somehow get to a bowl game, that would obviously be a win. It's going to be difficult, though. Outside of Nicholls State and Bowling Green, again, not a lot of winnable games here. I think they're probably a 5-win team. I'd be surprised if they get to a bowl, but I think it would be a win if they could. I mean, you obviously have to play Mississippi State. That's going to be tough. Non-conference, you got to go to Texas. Got to go to Texas Tech. They look like a 5-win team to me. If I'm looking at K-State, at 5.5, I think that's safe. I don't see 6 wins. It would be a win, but let them get their guys in there. Watch out for K-State. Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy's group. Another team that they're kind of in college football 3 levels of teams. Your really good teams. So in this conference, your really good teams would be obviously Oklahoma, Texas. Then there's that third rung where you have your Kansases and your Texas Techs, your K-States. There could really probably be 4 levels because Kansas would always be your 4th. Third level would be like K-State. Texas Tech. This year, West Virginia, and then there's that second rung this year, which will feature your Oklahoma States, your Baylor's, your TCU's, the teams that can win 7-8 games, but they're not good enough to compete for a Big 12 title. And you look at Oklahoma State, had a good season last year for the most part. I mean, 7-6, you get to a bowl, but you unfortunately lost 4 games that you probably should have won. I mean, you get crushed by Texas Tech. You lose to Iowa State in a high-scoring game. You lose a bad game to K-State. You lose a game to Baylor. And then you lose to TCU. I mean, there are 5 games there that you should have won. So case in point, I mean, this team could have been, they could have competed last year. It's that simple. But they couldn't find ways to win games. They just had these weird performances. You ask yourself, I mean, are they good enough to compete for a Big 12 title? I think so. I think, Gundy always is a good football team. You look at coming in, they're very high on Spencer Sanders. He's a guy that, is that dual threat quarterback. He's got a great arm, makes a lot of plays, really good kid. Chuba Hubbard, solid running back. But I think for the Oklahoma schools, particularly Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and, kind of that part of the United States, is we know what the Big 12 is. It's always had trouble getting stops. And Oklahoma State had trouble getting stops this year. I mean, they continue to struggle in the passing defense. I mean, they were one of the worst in the country. Turnover margin was one of the worst in the country. I think they're on that second rung. If I'm looking at OK State and I see a win total at, I don't know, 7. I mean, I think they start 3-0. Then they go to Texas. They'll be 3-0. They'll have obviously some excitability in their bones. I don't think they win that game. I think they could beat K-State. I think they could beat Texas Tech. I think they have 5 wins there. I think Baylor's a toss-up. Kansas is a win, so there's 6. I think they beat West Virginia 7. So they're going to have to beat Baylor, Iowa State, and TCU. We need 1 win in 3. I think they're 8-4. I think that's what they're. I think in best case scenario, 9-3. So I like what I see here. I mean, you have 2 receivers in Tyan Wallace and Dylan Stoner that are really good. The big thing for them is going to be on the defensive side. You still don't have much in the secondary. Your pass rush is, I think average. There's no Emmanuel Ogbah on this team. So I think, in the Big 12 rung, I think they're on that second rung. I don't believe they're good enough, but I think they're an 8-win team. I just don't think they're up in that Texas, Oklahoma level. TCU, this is my pick. I really like TCU as a dark horse, very high on this Horned Frog team. For a number of reasons. One is obviously the fact that defensively they're probably the best team in this conference. They always are very good under Gary Patterson. They were the best team in total defense, great against the pass, second in scoring defense. I mean, nothing really is going to change here. You have a very good secondary. Your linebackers are, per usual, some of the best in the country. I don't know what else to say about this defense. I mean, they only give up 23 points a game last year in this conference. I mean, they were 24th in total defense in the country. I mean, if they can just get the turnover margin up, I love what they do. I mean, they do lose a lot of talent. You lose L.J. Collier, you lose Ben Benagu, you lose Ty Summers. But what's crazy about them is they just continue to reload defensively. I'm excited about them. And, you look at coming in, your 2 of your top 4 recruits are defensive line. So, you got to be pretty excited about that. There's plenty of depth on this football team. Offensively, that's, kind of the issue. I mean, last year, Sean Robinson, I mean, was really just a mess. I thought they were dissatisfying at times to watch. That was an ugly bowl game. But the truth of the matter is, over the last 21 years, they've been to a bowl game in 19 of them. I'm going to give you one name for TCU. Max Duggan. Max Duggan, Max Duggan, Max Duggan. This kid is going to be a star at the college level. He is unbelievably good. He's got a great arm. A great arm. You talk about a kid that had, ton of offers coming out of college. He spurned Notre Dame, Ohio State. He wanted to go to TCU. He is really, really good. They love his arm there. He's a huge prospect. He was the number one recruit out of Council Bluffs, Iowa. Had a great high school career. I love him. His arm is just awesome. I'm not going to make this comparison lightly, but I'm going to make this comparison. He reminded me a little bit of like an Aaron or Andrew Luck type. That's the comparison I made. I kind of saw a little Carson Wentz in him. Kid's really mobile. He can move around. And he's not this rock in the backfield. He can move around. I love him. I'm very high on Max Duggan. I think he finds a way to be the starter of this team. And according to Gary Patterson, they will not hesitate to make him the starter. He is a true freshman, but he's really good. I'm really excited about Duggan. You look at receivers, Jalen Reagor, very good player. Darius Anderson, great running back. I like TCU a lot. I really do. And a lot of it has to do with that defense. If they can get Duggan to be what I think Duggan will be, like if they can get him to be like what Brock Purdy was last year, I think they can compete. I really do. They're always that kind of wild card team. A, because they always have a great defense. And B, Patterson's really good. He is a really, really good quarterback or a really good coach. You look at it in 6 losses last year, though. Minus 12 turnover margin and 7 wins. They're plus 7. They have to get that figured out. 2 things. If TCU can do these 2 things, they will compete to win this title. Good quarterback play and turnover margin. If both are positive, they will win. Because defensively, they're as good as it gets. I'm excited about them. The quarterback play last year fucking sucked. Sean Robinson sucked. KaVontae Turpin was a mess off the field. Anderson, Reagor, and Duggan. Give me those 3. Inject them in my veins. TCU win total is 7.5. They're going to start the season 4-0, in my opinion. I think 5-0, maybe 6-0. I think they could go in, honestly, to that game against Oklahoma undefeated. I don't really see anyone here that worries me. I don't. You get Oklahoma and Texas at home this year. That's tough. 16th and 23rd of November, you get Oklahoma and Texas back to back. I think they're 9-3. I really do. I think they're, if not 9-3, I think they'd be 10-2. I think they're that good. I really do. Duggan is a fucking star. Get that fucking familiar with. Get familiar with Duggan. Love him. Texas, look, I'm not going to go much into with Texas. We know Texas is very good. Ehlinger's terrific. We know how good Tom Herman is. Can he make that next step? Can you go out and beat Oklahoma? It's going to be fun to watch. It is going to be fun to watch these 2 teams duel this year. Oklahoma, Texas, for all that's great. You got to hope defensively they can take and continue to take a step. The passing defense continued to be bad last year. Look, Todd Orlando's making a lot of money, and defensively he just hasn't been good enough. They need to be better. They need to get better. And look, that's where, for me, I like Oklahoma's offense better than Texas's. And I think defensively, Oklahoma's getting closer and closer this year to being what Texas was last year. Neither were good. Texas was better last year, but I think they're more on an even playing field this year. There's not a lot of wiggle room between these two. But again, Ehlinger's really good. I think he could be an outside Heisman candidate. I think he's a guy that we have to start talking about. I know, Trevor Lawrence and Tua and everybody are really good. I know that. But Ehlinger could have a breakout year this year. He really, really could. You look at his Heisman Trophy odds, 20-1. Not bad. Not bad at all. If I'm going to take a Heisman, though, I would probably go Hurts over Ehlinger. I just think they're going to be the winning team, and they're going to have a better chance at it. Excited. Texas Tech, quickly with them. I think Matt Wells, like Chris Klieman, I think they're going to be some growing pains. I think they'll score plenty of points. I mean, if Alan Bowman can stay healthy, in David Yost's offense, I mean, they should score plenty of points. TJ Vasher, really good receiver. We know they're going to throw. But look, we know what the writing on the wall with Texas Tech is. They're one of the worst passing defenses in the country. They give up way too many points through the air. And this is a team that lost their final 5 games. And in those final 5 games, I mean, they gave up 35 points or more in 4 of them. They just aren't good enough defensively. And until they get that figured out, I don't have many expectations. We'll see what Matt Wells can do. Good coach. We know what he did at Utah State. But I think they're a lot like Utah State. Very good offensively. Who knows what they'll be defensively. You hope they can make that step forward and kind of, just kind of cut it down a little bit. Instead of giving up 31, can you give up 26? And that'll translate to more wins. But you should start the season 3-0. Pretty easy a conference schedule here. I think they should be bowling. I would say 6-6, but I think they could be 5-7 as well. Finally, West Virginia. And look, West Virginia, it's a new kind of era there. Dana Holgerson's gone. Neil Brown's in. A lot of people, including myself, wondered why you would go from West Virginia to Houston. But I think Dana Holgerson at this point kind of understands that the cupboard was a little dry at Morgantown. Look, they've put out a ton of great quarterbacks in West Virginia history. I mean, obviously back to Oliver Luck, to Jeff Hostetler, to Major Harris, to Mark Bulger, to Pat White, to Geno Smith, to Clint Trickett, to Skylar Howard, to Will Grier. They've had a ton of great quarterbacks there. But you look at coming into the season, I mean, you have some guys, Austin Kendall, Jack Allison, you bring in Jarrett Doge. All 3 are competing. You hope that they can find something that makes sense. Again, this is a young group from an offensive perspective. Kennedy McCoy, you have to hope that he can kind of right the ship. And look, Neil Brown's a good coach, but this is a good conference with a lot of talent. And, I would kind of put West Virginia in that 3rd rung. The new coach that's trying to find his way. We got to kind of see how these kids develop. A lot of JUCO kids coming in. You did lose a ton last year. You lose Jennings. You lose Sills. You lose Will Grier. There's going to be a lot of growing pains here. Again, another team has issues getting stops in the secondary. Look at the secondary, though. A lot of seniors, a lot of upperclassmen on this defense. You hope they could take the next step and get themselves to be a top 50 defense. They've done it before, West Virginia. A couple years ago, they had a pretty good defense. It's just not been consistent enough. We'll see if under Neil Brown it is. Look, with Neil Brown at his former institution at Troy, I mean, he was a good defensive coach. You got to give these guys time to develop. Look, for me, it's Oklahoma. I give you my sleeper. It's got to be TCU. I love Dugan. I love their defense. I think Patterson's as good as it gets. I'd like to see him take a little bit more chances, Gary Patterson. But again, I like TCU. They're my sleeper in the Big 12. I'm excited about this conference for the first time in a while. I think we start to see a little defense. I think the secondary is for some of these schools will be better. And the quarterback play is going to be great. Ehlinger, obviously Jalen Hurts. I think Spencer Sanders has a big season for OK State. All these guys. It's going to be a fun year. I'm excited about the Big 12. That's that. As always, make sure you like and comment. And check out all my stuff on pubsportsradio.com that you can find all my previews as we head closer and closer to the season. I'm the Big Man on campus. You'll have a great night. Bye-bye.